The Gilgo Beach serial killings refer to a series of gruesome murders that took place on Long Island, New York, spanning several decades and primarily involving young women, many of whom were sex workers. Between 1993 and 2011, the remains of multiple victims were discovered along the South Shore, leading to the long and complex hunt for the elusive Long Island serial killer. The case remained unsolved for years, frustrating law enforcement as investigators struggled to identify the perpetrator and piece together the victim's final moments. The Gilgo Beach case gained national attention in December 2010 when police, searching for missing escort Shannon Gilbert, stumbled upon the remains of 4 women along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach. Over the following months, additional remains were found, revealing a much larger crime scene. Investigators determined that the killer had likely been active for years, possibly decades, and that multiple bodies had been left in different locations along Long Island's South Shore. The victims, many of whom were last seen in New York City, were disposed of in a similar fashion, wrapped in burlap or other materials, suggesting a methodical and organized offender. The discovery of remains from different time periods and locations led to speculation that more than one killer might be responsible. However, authorities eventually narrowed their focus to a single suspect who fit the profile of an organized serial killer operating over a long period. The first known victim linked to the case was Sandra Costilla, a 28-year-old woman originally from Trinidad and Tobago. She was murdered in November 1993, and her body was discovered in a wooded area in North Sea, Long Island. At the time, her case did not receive widespread attention, and it was only later that investigators began to connect it to other unsolved killings. In 2003, another victim, Jessica Taylor, a 20-year-old sex worker from Manhattan, was last seen alive. Her torso was found in Manorville, New York, while additional remains were uncovered near Gilgo Beach in 2011. Similarly, Valerie Mack, also known as Melissa Taylor, was a 24-year-old escort from Philadelphia who vanished in 2000. Parts of her remains were discovered in Manorville the same year, with more remains found at Gilgo Beach over a decade later. She remained unidentified until 2020 when DNA analysis confirmed her identity. Another victim, Karen Vergata, a 34-year-old woman from Manhattan believed to be a sex worker, disappeared around Valentine's Day in 1996. Her severed legs were found on Fire Island in 1996, and her skull was later discovered at Tobay Beach in 2011. Advances in DNA technology led to her identification in 2023. In 2010, the investigation took a dramatic turn when 4 more bodies were discovered in close proximity near Gilgo Beach. These women became known as the Gilgo Four and were believed to have been killed by the same person. Maureen Brainerd Barnes disappeared in 2007, Melissa Barthelemy vanished in 2009, Megan Waterman was last seen in 2010, and Megan Mary Ryan was last seen in 2013. Amber Costello went missing in 2010. The similarities between the victims, young, petite women who worked as escorts, led investigators to theorize that the killer targeted vulnerable women through online escort ads. Additionally, Barthelmy's case stood out because her family received taunting phone calls from her suspected killer, further fueling the belief that a methodical predator was at work. For years, the investigation remained at a standstill despite extensive efforts by law enforcement. In March 2022, a breakthrough occurred when authorities linked a dark green Chevrolet Avalanche, registered to 59-year-old architect Rex Heuermann, to one of the killings. This lead prompted further scrutiny of Heuermann, a resident of Massapequa Park, Long Island. In July 2023, Heuermann was arrested in Manhattan and charged with multiple counts of first- and second-degree murder in connection with the deaths of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. He was also named the prime suspect in the murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Evidence against Heuermann quickly mounted. Cell phone records indicated that he had been in contact with 3 of the victims before their deaths. Investigators also discovered an email account linked to Heuermann that he allegedly used to monitor the progress of the investigation. Further evidence included disturbing internet searches related to serial killers, victims' families, and the case itself. DNA analysis provided one of the most damning pieces of evidence. A pizza crust discarded by Heuermann was tested for mitochondrial DNA, which matched a hair found on burlap used to wrap one of the victims. Additionally, hair samples linked to Heuermann's wife were discovered near 3 victims, though authorities believe she and their children were out of state during the murders. In June 2024, prosecutors brought additional charges against Heuermann, indicting him for the murders of Jessica Taylor and Sandra Costilla. Later, in December 2024, he was formally charged with the murder of Valerie Mack, bringing the total number of victims linked to him to 7. The investigation into Heuermann's background revealed further disturbing details, including a collection of violent and sadistic materials. His Massapequa Park home was thoroughly searched, but the defense later argued that no biological or forensic evidence was found in his basement, which prosecutors had alleged was used as a kill room. As of February 2025, pre-trial hearings have been ongoing. Prosecutors have sought to consolidate all 7 murder cases into a single trial, arguing that the similarities between the victims and the interconnected evidence warrant a unified prosecution. They have emphasized that all victims were young, petite women with similar backgrounds, reinforcing the theory of a single perpetrator. On the other hand, Heuermann's defense attorney has pushed for the cases to be split into 5 separate trials, arguing that each murder should be examined independently to avoid biasing the jury. The defense has also challenged the reliability of the DNA evidence, claiming that no forensic evidence directly ties Heuermann to the crime scenes. The case has sparked national interest due to its long history, chilling details, and the mystery that shrouded the identity of the killer for years. The discovery of victims along Gilgo Beach and surrounding areas led to renewed scrutiny of law enforcement's handling of the case. Families of the victims continue to seek justice, hoping that the trial will finally bring closure. As forensic technology advances, authorities are utilizing new methods to re-examine evidence, potentially linking Heuermann to more cases. Meanwhile, the community remains on edge, haunted by the brutal nature of the crimes and the unanswered questions surrounding other potential victims. The trial is set to be one of the most closely watched criminal proceedings in recent history.